I loved how wuwa just proved everyone wrong. Everybody was talking smack, bro. I'm like, let's just wait. Let's see where this is gonna go. And here we are now. Just hold on. Like, why are people already drawing? People are making the same mistake while talking about Wuthering Waves. When a new product gets announced or is introduced into the market, it is as inevitable as Thanos that people will compare it to the competition. That's just inevitable, all right? And it seems to be the case for Silver Palace. Now, Silver Palace is the next big thing, all right? It has the ability to just take this space by storm in both gameplay and gacha, because whether we like it or not, the gacha is as important as the gameplay, just like the message is as important as the messaging. And so it goes. There's a lot of examples like that, but that one is my favorite, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people get in trouble. They're like, I'm coming from a good place. Like, why are people reacting so negatively to me? Well, maybe it's your messaging. Maybe you're calling them idiots, stuff like that, and people don't take handily to that type of stuff. Now, Silver Palace already made us, you know what I'm saying, some small adjustments. We went from 120 to guarantee to 100. Well, at least there's that. They're giving you the free 5-star red rose, which tells me that at least looking at something like NTE, because I don't think red rose is in the standard banner. I think it's something like chiz that you unlock as you play the game, and we appreciate that. And red rose is the most hyped waifu within the game since reveal, right? That she shocked everybody, and her being for free, being the waifu bait, is quite something. All right, that's quite the move. Now, we don't know if it's going to be there on launch, but I'm pretty sure it will. And more importantly, gameplay is pretty good. The game is looking fantastic. So it becomes a hard conversation. Now, obviously, a lot of people are having issues with Silver Palace because of the 50-50 system still being even a thing within the game. If you get an early, you can get the character at 100. So if you are going to be unlucky, lose the 50-50, and then you have to go all the way up to 160, this is obviously an amazing system. However, in true free-to-play fashion, real free-to-plays rise up. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We chase earlies. The reality is how these companies do business, and trying to give us currency per patch enables us to barely get to pity. Typically, you're not going to get to guarantee, especially like that's just a tough proposition per patch. So what we do is we have to hunt down earlies. You pray for them earlies. You make sure it's a lucky day for them earlies. You pull on other gachas. Literally what I do, by the way. You pull on other gachas, or you do RNG stuff to work on your probabilities to increase the odds to hit the early in the gacha. That's how far people are willing to go to proc that early, because it is a money-saving tactic / well, one should also consider it a enjoyment-saving tactic, because if I don't get the character, I don't get to have that revitalizing spark that a character offers in terms of progression in my daily login, because unfortunately the live service proposition of these games are weak. They're kind of slop, and you play them for 3 to 5 minutes a day, and players need to feel there's progress to their game. Therefore, yeah, getting new characters is important, and they know that too, especially considering how they advertise them in the story, how they advertise them in all their socials. You even get emails about them, for crying out loud. So it's like, okay, you want me to get the character? I'll try to get the character, but gosh darn it, you're making it very difficult, know what I'm saying? And so yeah, this is where we're at. If I missed another point, please let me know, because there's so many factors to this. Like, I just remember some, but I'm pretty sure there's others. And I shouts out to you guys in the comments. Like, you guys point out such important factors. Like, huge shout out to you guys. But anyway, one thing is for certain: 2 games are getting in the way of Silver Palace right now. NTE when it comes to the gacha, and of course Wuthering Waves in terms of gameplay. Now, when you take both into consideration, Wuthering Waves become even harder to ignore and to not compare with Silver Palace, because like we've seen before with the Arcado Zodan video, people will throw quality to negate the NTE argument, which is just a weak attempt at trying to diminish the quality of NTE. Is NTE has lack of polish? Sure. Is NTE also within the same slop realm as the other games? Absolutely. But if that applies to everything else, like, it's just NTE is operating within its norm. So besides the lack of polish, which I hope will get fixed in 2.0, because even Wuthering Waves at the start was boogering waves, it makes it so that we are more tolerant towards NTE due to already set precedents from amazing giants like Wuthering Waves. So for the sake of argument, because I'm pretty sure I know what the creator in question is doing. But for the sake of argument, we're gonna take Wuthering Waves as the sole competitor to Silver Palace because of the quality, right? It's all quality, but I still think that the quality argument thrown against NTE is very subjective and really not it. So anyway, we have the Nigerian perspective going how Gacha's next generation keeps ignoring what Wuthering Waves already proved works. This is a very important question. There's NTE here, question mark. Arknights crossed, Genshin in the back. I'm really curious on what he has to say. So without further ado, let's get active. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to not miss any updates.
I guess I better go subscribe to VXV Gacha.
Wuthering Waves 3.5, like many other versions before it, has once again proven why this game is worthy to be a part of the conversation. I mean, once again, there are more people talking about Wuthering Waves than ever before, more people playing the game right now more than ever, more people exploring the newest region, and even more players starting the game for the very first time due to this version. But here's the kicker. None of this is surprising. I mean, if you've been paying attention, everything that's been happening with Wuthering Waves right now, the recognition, the praise, the success, is something that many of us have predicted years ago. I mean, I know I certainly have, and I'm willing to bet that most of you watching this video felt the exact same way. What Wuthering Waves is experiencing today always felt inevitable. I mean, it wasn't a question of if it would happen, but rather when. And this brings me to a question that has been on my mind for a very long time. If we as players could always see the trajectory of Wuthering Waves long before it's reached the level of success that it enjoys today, why does it seem like the very people who should be paying the closest attention, the gacha developers themselves, don't really seem to share our vision? And I think this is a very important question to ask, because with the success that Wuthering Waves
no, they share our vision. They're obviously trying to get at it. Like, obviously they are. It's just that they're capitalizing on it. And that's it. And that's why we're looking at it different than them. Because we're like, well, you have that success. Can you throw us a bone or something? They're like, nope, we worked hard to get here. We need to milk more.
A foundation has already been laid, a recipe for success. But even with that recipe right in front of them, we continue to see so many gacha games, especially the ones that have been released, choose to do their own thing. They go down their own paths. And at best, they're met with mixed results. And what is even more surprising is that we're now hearing that one of the most promising gacha games currently in development appears to be following the exact same path. So we're back to that same question. With all the success Wuthering Waves has managed to achieve in just 2.5 years, why aren't newer gacha games taking notes? Why aren't they learning from a game that has already proven it can break through and achieve this level of success? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. So if you're into the kind of context, make sure to leave a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Why do you think newer gacha games are the way they are? Is it simply stubbornness? Am I missing something about the direction these developers are trying to take? Or is there another perspective that deserves more attention? Tell me that and more in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you can on any of my future videos. Let's get into it. Here's a really interesting question. What actually makes a good gacha game? And I think this is one of the easiest yet hardest question you can ask.
Gameplay, waifus, story, and of course the gacha system.
Whether you're talking to a gacha developer or just someone who plays these games regularly. I mean, these days there's so many gacha games you could point to as examples of what a good gacha game looks like. Some people could point to older titles like Limbus Company, games that excel in storytelling even more so than the games that exist today.
Everybody praises the heck out of Limbus Company, man. At this point we just gotta try it one day and look at what the hype is about.
No favorites: Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail, games that give them a specific feeling, something they simply can't get from any other gacha game on the market today. And really, every single one of these examples matters. The fact that we can point to different games and talk about the unique emotions they evoke is one of the greatest things about gaming in the first place. But that being said though, what you've come to understand is that every genre eventually has a standard. It has that one game that everyone measures everything else against.
Yes.
I mean, when you think about Souls games, for instance, I'd imagine Elden Ring is the first game that comes to mind. And if I tell you to give me an example of an open world sandbox that combines third-person shooting, driving mechanics, and complete player freedom, well, at that point, I'm just explaining GTA for you. I mean, these games have become the benchmark for their respective genres.
Yes.
The standard where most other games in that genre take their inspiration from. And the exact same thing has happened with gacha games. I mean, no matter how many gacha games have existed or how many will exist in the future, it feels like every road eventually leads back to Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves.
Absolutely.
The two biggest games in the entire gacha space, and arguably the two most acclaimed games in the genre. I mean, it's no secret that regardless of how big they are, or rather due to how big they are, there is this never-ending war between Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves, a rivalry that will probably rage on to the heat death of the universe. But here's what is really interesting. Despite all the friction between
No, it won't. I think at some point people will get tired of that because Genshin Impact will eventually reach its end because it's way more ahead. I think at that point people will just, they'll be like, you know what, we had fun. It's been a fun 10 years. It's time to move on, man. It's time to move on. Because in my opinion, what I see in tribalism is it's starting to feel more forced than anything. As I don't necessarily see it. I don't as much anymore. But it feels forced. Like only when people force it, people will respond to it. But otherwise, I don't necessarily think it's a sentiment that people are inherently just going with.
There are no two gacha games more similar to each other than Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves.
Well, that's by design, because Genshin Impact was the more popular IP. Wuthering Waves looked at that and went, oh, we'll just do that and do better. And we can make millions of dollars too. All right, let's do it.
People overlook. I mean, yes, we have to talk about how Genshin Impact has improved because of Wuthering Waves. Whether it's the gameplay changes or the countless new animations that have been added over the past year, there are features in Genshin Impact today that many of us genuinely understand would not exist if Wuthering Waves hadn't entered the markets. But here's the thing.
I don't know about that. I think since Fontaine, Sumeru, stuff like that, like the cutscenes have been improving in my opinion. Like trying to just make it so that it's just all about Wuthering Waves and it's because of Wuthering Waves. I don't know about that.
The reverse is equally true. Wuthering Waves would also not exist in the form it does today. Nor would it have reached the level of popularity it enjoys now if Genshin Impact had not come before it. In fact, if there is any game in the entire gacha space that followed Genshin Impact's blueprints almost to the letter, it is Wuthering Waves.
Absolutely.
Now, don't get me wrong. Right now in 2026, Wuthering Waves has more than established its own identity. It has evolved into its own game with its own strength and philosophy. But if you strip everything back and look at the foundation, at the core structure
Genshin Impact is there.
Built upon, you'll find a whole lot of Genshin Impact.
Wuthering Waves cannot escape Genshin Impact's shadow. It cannot escape it. And obviously it's because Genshin Impact is to this day a more popular IP than Wuthering Waves. That's why. Had Wuthering Waves crushed it, people will just look at it as like a cope thing. They will look at people trying to say, well, Genshin Impact is what made it up there. It's like, oh, all right, well, that's just the nature of the market. Like, get on with the world. But what's shocking and what makes this such a hit in the face is because Genshin Impact is still racking up more money and is still more popular than Wuthering Waves.
To a question I really want all of you to think about. Because see, in a previous video, we already established that simply copying Genshin Impact in 2026 is no longer a viable strategy for any new gacha game. I mean, if it was, a game like 7 Deadly Sins, that...
Yes, it is. NTE is making millions. Yes, it is. If you do it right, yeah, it does. Yeah, NTE's already made their money back and they're just on the green right now. They're just making money. Yeah, they can make money. Like, they're not going to be the big thing over here, but they're making money. And that's what they're here for. They're just capitalizing on the success of these IPs. Like, they're just, oh, if I open a pizza place in this particular part of the city, there's like all these customers coming to this area for those guys, and I can capitalize on that. They can look at me and go, you know what, I'll try that too. And there it is. And NTE now has its own player base. Smaller, but at least it's there. That was the whole point. They're obviously not trying to overtake them. They are now with creativity and stuff like that, but, you know, at first, initially, obviously not.
Copied Genshin Impact almost to the letter would be making a whole lot of waves today. But as we understand right now, it is not. So if that is true, why aren't we seeing more developers copying Wuthering Waves instead? Well, I think the better question is this.
Oh, NTE is a bit like Silver Palace. Silver Palace is trying to copy it a bit. NTE also a bit, because we've seen the intro skill and stuff like that. They're also trying to limit how often we do reactions and stuff like that. That screams Wuthering Waves to me. So also flashiness in terms of attacks. I feel like NTE is more flashier since Chaos is very flashy. It's very fast. So I think now they are definitely trying to copy a bit of Wuthering Waves. That's for sure, to make it feel that NTE is a brand new superior product than Genshin Impact in every aspect. And because it is. It is. It's just not as popular. It's just not as popular. And obviously, they're lacking the story department. NTE's story is still weak as hell for now.
Why are we only seeing games partially copy Wuthering Waves? And this is a really interesting question, because when you look at how Wuthering Waves copied Genshin Impact,
because it's not the most popular IP in the market. That's why. It's really not that complicated. And popularity equates to money nowadays and not necessarily quality, as proven with Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves. Yep. I know.
you realize that it did two very important things. The first was that it copied Genshin's fundamentals, the UI, the overall feel of the game, the menus, the shops. It's created a system where anyone coming from Genshin Impact would immediately feel at home. But at the exact same time,
and that sense of familiarity is very important to people, especially gamers. It feels very rewarding. You're like, I already know what to deal with now. I just need to experience the new stuff that this game is offering. It makes the transition super smooth.
It's carved out an identity that was completely its own. I mean, whether it's the perception of developers listening to player feedback, which admittedly is something we understand doesn't really mean much these days. But more importantly, the game's incredible characters, regions, stories. I mean, Wuthering Waves has constantly reinforced the idea that these experiences can only exist, well, in Wuthering Waves. That is what has given the game its identity. Going forward though, the second thing Wuthering Waves copied was Genshin's gacha system. But instead of copying it one-to-one,
that wasn't the case in 1.0, by the way. That's why I'm holding on hope for NTE in the future. Because Wuthering Waves is actually, and I don't know why he didn't make this video. I guess obviously the Nigeria perspective is more on the Kurubat part of the streets than anything. And he can't necessarily betray that audience as much. But I do feel like he's kind of hinting at it is, well, NTE is kind of in a similar boat then as Wuthering Waves when it was in its inception. And right off now, we are at 1.2, and they already made like a whole new game mode and stuff like that. Like they're trying to show creativity. They're trying to show us that we are seriously trying to make our players have a good video game experience. And I think that's something to be appreciated and applauded for. And hopefully, if they can just have that huge hit around 2.0, just like Wuthering Waves did. And also when you consider everything else, like the flashiness, intro skilling, all that stuff, it tells me there's a lot of, they're looking at wuwa and they're trying to accomplish what wuwa is doing. And I hope he says that too.
It's made a few tweaks. Changes that seemed almost insignificant at first. I mean, an 80 pull pity instead of 90. No 50-50 on the weapon banner. I mean, on paper, this doesn't sound like massive changes. But in practice...
No, at the time, this was a massive change. No 50-50 on the weapon banner was huge. Oh, yes, it was. 80 pull pity was, typically people get stuff in the soft. Like, that one doesn't necessarily matter. But 50-50, you know what? We wouldn't even look at the weapon banner if it wasn't for the 50-50, man. No, I would never pull on a weapon banner. Never. But then again, they were tricky. They were slick. If you don't have a sword or gun user, you typically need the weapon banner because, well, the 4-star options just freaking suck. Except for supports, but those are very few and far between for energy recharge weapons.
They were enough to transform one of the...
And they're typically just rectifiers.
...predatory gacha systems into one of the most player-friendly. And those two decisions, copying the foundation while building its distinct identity and refining the gacha system instead of reinventing it, are the pillars that Wuthering Waves was built upon. They're the reason the game was able to stand beside Genshin Impact instead of simply living in its shadow. And even more importantly, they were a formula that newer gacha games could look to and emulate. But what we've come to realize is that even though Wuthering Waves has already paved the road to success...
I feel like NTE is doing that right now. Seriously, now that the more I think about it, the more I feel like they are doing it right now.
A path that any new gacha game could follow to reach the level Wuthering Waves is at today eventually. We really haven't seen a single game copy Wuthering Waves as effectively as Wuthering Waves copied Genshin Impact. I mean, take Neverness to Everness as a really good example. Because when you think about it, in one sense, NTE did exactly what Wuthering Waves did to Genshin Impact. It's looked at an existing gacha system, whether you consider that Genshin's or Wuthering Waves, and refined it. It's made tweaks that have arguably created one of the most player-friendly gacha systems in the entire genre.
Yeah, it's 100% the best. For now, at least. It's 100% the best.
Nobody in their right mind can deny that that is a good thing. That is exactly what we as players want. But as great as that is, what about the identity? Because yes, Neverness to Everness is one of those games that is absolutely overflowing with content. In fact, I don't think there's any other gacha game on the market that is giving players as much to do. But have you ever stopped to wonder why there are almost as many I quit NTE videos as there are I quit Genshin videos?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 ninjas. There's 3 ninjas saying I quit NTE. You're taking 3 ninjas? Come on, man. Come on. Let's not do that. Yes, there are players in true classic gacha game fashion. I tried the game, it wasn't for me, I quit. Now, I've seen that in ZZZ, I've seen that in wuwa. It always happens. And those are just 3 CCs that are playing NTE and it just didn't click for them. I guess we can add Arcado Zodan, that makes them 4. That's it. I feel like considering how the game is going right now, I feel like a lot more CCs are happy with NTE and a lot more players are happy with NTE. Yeah, we're willing to see how far it's gonna go. In 2.0, I feel like it's gonna be it. Now, 2.0, like that said, it's either gonna be the hit or it's not. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I feel like what a lot of players are waiting for. And that's typically what we expect the moment we start playing these games. I mean, have you seen how wuwa was and what it became now? And we were waiting. We were always like, wait, hold on, let them cook. That's what I was doing on spawn of Wuthering Waves. Just let them cook. And how right I was, right? You just be patient, you be optimistic and hopeful, and sometimes you are rewarded for that.
But having a reason to play, to genuinely look forward to opening the game whenever you finally have that time is just as important. How interesting the characters could be, how magical the environment could look, how emotional the story could get. These are things that spark...
That's where the weak spot of NTE is. It's definitely the story. And right now, 1.2 doesn't help this at all. Because even they said it's filler. We all know it's filler.
Discussions, create emotional investment, keep people talking about the game long after they've logged off. And right now, after a couple of months of playing the game, I believe a conclusion we can all safely come to is that Neverness to Everness simply does not have that.
wuwa was the same! wuwa was the same around this time in its inception! Like, why are we throwing the baby with the bathwater? What do you mean it does not have that? For now. For now, it doesn't have that. But we never know what's coming. Let them cook. Goddamn. wuwa wasn't that. I loved how wuwa just proved everyone wrong. I freaking loved that shit. Everybody was talking smack, bro. I'm just there like, well, let's just let him cook. I didn't enjoy the story my damn self. I'm like, let's just wait. Let's see where this is gonna go. And here we are now. Just hold on. Like, why are people already drawing? People are making the same mistake while talking about Wuthering Waves. Like, you are talking about Wuthering Waves right now. How? How do you not see the comparison? How do you not apply the same tolerance and patience that you have for Wuthering Waves on launch than you are with NTE? Like, on launch, wuwa kind of low-key sucked. I'll go ahead and say it. Like, damn. Like, what are we talking about? It had bugs. People couldn't log in. Everybody was pissed. It was miserable in the community. But it took time. We needed a lot of time. And here we are today. All of this has been built through our patience, the perseverance of the devs, our feedback that got us to today. I'm hoping that NTE can simply deliver the same. And I think they are trying to do the exact same thing. A man could hope. A man could hope.
The inverse can be said for Arknights Endfield. I mean, this is a game that is absolutely overflowing with identity. A game that has mechanics that would feel completely out of place in any game that is not called Arknights Endfield. A game that has an atmosphere that is genuinely breathtaking. Characters that are as diverse as they are incredibly well designed. And a story that, while admittedly inconsistent at times, can absolutely blow the audience away when it decides to fire on all cylinders. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Arknights Endfield has some of the best presentation and immersion in the entire gacha genre, rivaling even Wuthering Waves. But what about its gacha system? I mean, we've all seen the endless debates over whether Arknights Endfield system is better than Wuthering Waves. One of those discussions that's probably never going to have a definitive answer. I mean, for every argument in favor of one system, there are 5 more in favor of the other. But even with all of that, there is one undeniable reality. The fact that one gacha system is constantly debated, controversial enough to become a reason for people to quit the game entirely, while the other is met with universal praise, or at the very least, complete neutrality. I mean, yes, people quit Wuthering Waves for all sorts of reasons. Maybe the combat is too fast-paced, maybe the game simply isn't for them, maybe they lose interest over time. But one thing you almost never hear cited as a reason they quit is the gacha system. And I think that is one conclusion worth taking away from the Arknights Endfield versus Wuthering.
No, you hear that. You just don't hear it too much. But you do. You do. I have seen people, especially since the introduction of NTE, and if you go to the community of NTE, a lot of them are coming from wuwa or Genshin Impact, stuff like that, because they were tired of the 50-50 system. That was enough of an incentive for people to just at least make the games that have the 50-50 systems more of a side game than NTE. That is a fact. I have seen that a lot in the NTE space.
I mean, regardless of whether you personally prefer the Arknights system or not, almost everyone accepts the Wuthering Waves system. And now you understand why I asked that question earlier. I mean, both Neverness to Everness and Arknights Endfield, instead of fully copying Wuthering Waves, the same way Wuthering Waves fully copied Genshin Impact, decided to go their own direction instead, and we've seen the results of that. And this brings us to the game that inspired this video in the first place.
Bro, wuwa is at 3.0, like 2.0, like NTE is like, dude, I just spawned. Can I apply my buffs first? Like, before you judge my full output in DPS, like, can I buff up? I need my buffs. I need to apply Havoc Bane. Like, what?
Silver Palace. I mean, if you've watched my previous video on this game, you know it's a game that I've openly endorsed, and I still do. Because from everything we have seen so far, Silver Palace looks like it is capable of doing what Wuthering Waves and Arknights Endfield have already managed to do. Take a proven formula while creating an identity that genuinely stands out. I mean, from the trailers alone.
In terms of identity, one must admit NTE has its identity through the anomalies, the attempts at horror, and the attempts of a city-like type of vibe that goes with the game. It feels like Zenless Zone Zero if it was open world. That's kind of its attempt at an identity, and I think it does a good job. I think it is. I feel like this video is based on a particular part of the community's consensus of their opinion of NTE, it being somewhat of an inferior product, because the game is still obviously trying to do different things and trying to see what sticks in the wall, and then they can follow up on the things that is received the best. Kind of like what Wuthering Waves was doing at the start, because the story was rewritten since the beta. People didn't like it. It suffered up until the Black Shores. You know, it wasn't necessarily it. And this is where the unfairness of the criticism comes, especially when you hear a bunch of Wuthering Waves fans mainly talk about NTE.
It doesn't look like something we've already played before. I mean, I genuinely believe that the overall experience had the potential to rival some of the best we've seen in the game.
I find they're not necessarily Wuthering Waves fans. They're more on the kudu bad side, because I'm a Wuthering Waves fan. Those are more on the kudu bad side. All right, fine, I'll say it. God damn it.
But just like Arknights Endfield and Neverness to Everness, Silver Palace also seems to be choosing not to follow the formula that we already know works. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, a couple of weeks ago, we found out that the Silver Palace developers, instead of going the Wuthering Waves routes, appears to be leaning more towards the Arknights Endfield routes, building a strong identity while pairing it with a much more controversial gacha system. Now, before I go any further, it is important to point out that none of this is set in stone. Everything we're talking about is still subject to change.
That's kind of why we're still here in the conversation. We're hoping for just that.
before we even learned about the current system, there were already rumors that Silver Palace was using something much closer to Genshin's Gacha. And if those rumors were indeed true, then at the very least, it tells us that the developers are exploring different options, which I actually think is a very smart approach.
Yes.
But out of every upcoming Gacha, I genuinely believe there isn't one that would benefit more from following the Wuthering Waves route than Silver Palace. I mean, this game has already done the hard part. It has already established an identity. It has already proven that in a genre where so many games look and feel the same, it has the potential to be one of the few that truly stands out. We've seen it through its gameplay, we've seen it in its world design, its characters, the overall atmosphere it creates. I mean, this is yet another game that, much like Wuthering Waves, has the potential to completely immerse you in its world. But if there is one thing at all that could hold Silver Palace back, it is refusing to do for Wuthering Waves what Wuthering Waves did for Genshin Impact. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think sticking with its current system would somehow kill the game, far from it, but I also don't think it helps, especially in today's markets where players—
It's a debuff. It's a strong debuff, and considering a lot of players like to add these to their roster of already existing gachas more than anything, it becomes very hard to navigate. And it's not pro-consumer, and players don't appreciate that type of behavior anymore. People are like, there's a huge burnout, huge amount of fatigue in the space. Because here's the thing, they're after already existing players, mainly. They're not necessarily trying to get new players right off the bat. They're trying to capitalize on the already existing customers. And those are tired of that stuff, man. We're tired.
Looking for any reason to drop a gacha game. A controversial gacha system becomes unnecessary baggage. It becomes that one criticism that follows the game everywhere, regardless of how incredible its world is, regardless of how fun its gameplay may be. But as said before, everything is still subject to change, and like everybody else, I look forward to seeing where this game goes in the future. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Do you agree that newer gacha games should copy Wuthering Waves the same way Wuthering Waves copied Genshin Impact?
He's trying to say like they need to copy Wuthering Waves. I feel like Silver Palace is copying Wuthering Waves, NTE is copying Wuthering Waves in what makes Wuthering Waves, which is quality, flashiness, gameplay. It's just, you know, kick-ass stuff like that flashiness, that fast-paced gameplay. That's what I feel like is Wuthering Waves is truly all about, and I think they deliver on that. Now, in terms of the story, Wuthering Waves had to slow cook. NTE is slow cooking too, and unfortunately the 1.0 just didn't hit as much. Now the later half, I mean, well, basically the end when we're introduced to the Fraxidus of NTE, it picks up. I think the story is interesting there. Daffodil, it turns out she's supposed to be with them and stuff. That was shocking, right? Spoiler alert, my bad. And stuff like that was interesting. It sets the foundation of some cool stuff. Anomalies also are these superpowers, and they're interesting. I think it's an interesting concept. We still haven't seen the type of Archon type of stuff we're going to be having. I don't know if they're going to apply that. That's something that could maybe they can attempt to set themselves apart. But I think those characters are such collectibles, and players love characters like that I don't think they will ignore. But we'll see what they do. And so yeah, man, I don't necessarily see why these games need to necessarily copy Wuthering Waves in terms of story, because the reality is, even in terms of story polish, Wuthering Waves is still within Genshin Impact's realm. Because have you seen Genshin Impact's lore? Like, there's so much going on. It's crazy now. Like you hear what has happened since Fontaine. I'll just be like, what? Hey, man, that's crazy, man. But obviously now it's easier to digest because so much time has passed. But every single patch there were a lot of complaints in Genshin Impact story arcs, and as it heads to its climax, it can be a slow burn, and a lot of people don't enjoy that as much.
Or do you think there is something fundamentally wrong with that argument? And what about Silver Palace? Do you agree that—
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that argument. I think it's already applied. I just don't necessarily understand to what extent you want it applied, or maybe just for people to start admitting it, which comes out very cutie batty. But I think they're already applying that. I think you're just failing to see that they're already doing just that.
This gacha system appears to be taking could be a major mistake, or do you think I'm completely off the mark?
Because the gacha system is okay-ish. I mean, they're doing the same thing. NTE went the extreme route. Silver Palace is doing the same thing like Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves looked at the Genshin one, went, you know what we're gonna do? We've seen this bold guy lose a bunch of 50-50s on the staff of Homa banner. You know what we're gonna do? A lot of players of Genshin Impact are complaining about that. So you know what? We're just gonna give him no 50-50. We're gonna remove the trauma completely. Everybody will rejoice. Everybody will rejoice. But we're going to keep it for the characters, because we understand still that the characters are what mostly players want. And there it is, man. Like, every single one will try to at least one-up the already existing standard to a decent degree and test the boundaries on which how far they can get away with predatory practices. That's basically it. NTE just went full extreme, and it's obviously making a lot of these gacha companies uncomfortable. All NTE requires now is a good, solid story to go with it, and most importantly, for it to receive the popularity it deserves. Because I do think NTE is a good game. The only thing I think holding it down is obviously Inception. Fully making liking its identity. I think it has, like I said before, the horrors, the anomalies, there's a lot going on, but obviously the story isn't necessarily flushed. You can still see they're trying different things, trying to see what really sticks and capitalize on that, and just focus mainly on that, because that's what the player base wants, so they have to keep delivering. And so yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. But it comes out very kudu batty. I'm not gonna lie, I can see why people call him the kudu bat, but I do feel like still that there are good points mentioned here, and huge shout out to the Nigerian Perspective once again for always giving us some damn good conversations to have, man. But that's just me though. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.